Hello, hello, Garland Nixon here. And I was just thinking about something today. Did a couple different radio shows. I did my Sputnik show. I did my show on KPFK in Los Angeles. And, I started thinking about where we are politically right now. I saw some articles that said, the Democrats are facing horrific disasters in the midterms. And I noticed they don't seem to be overly concerned. So let's talk about what has this political system devolved into? Why does it seem like chaos and madness on both sides of the Atlantic? Let's talk. Well, if you're anything like me, you're politically curious, right? And you're wondering to yourself, there's questions. If you've been paying attention to politics for any amount of time, you look at now and you're finding that this is a very odd time in politics. That traditionally the political parties in the United States and in Europe, throughout the US empire particularly, have at least put on the pretense that they were concerned about the voters, concerned about the citizens. They weren't really, but they faked it. They did a little something for them. They would show some concern about whether they won or lost, whether they maintained the majority. You saw those kinds of concerns, right? And you thought to yourself, okay, well, this is a political party. Whether or not they're looking out for us, it is a political party. But this system of ours, political system, has devolved into something. And let's try to chat about what it is. Let's try to figure out what it is. Let's try to have a talk about, what the hell's going on here when the politicians seem to have lost touch, seem to have decoupled from their constituents. So here's an article I saw a number of ones like that. So let's start looking at an article that should give us great pause. Real Clear Politics. Dems face nightmare scenario, biblical disaster, right? Biblical disaster. So what are we talking about? We're talking about the Democrats from the registrar of wills in your local county to Senate, wipeout, total, complete, absolute wipeout. And the numbers are far worse than the polls even say, right? Democrats are facing a nightmare scenario with about 6 months to go before the midterms. Now, here's what they say. They blame it on the external factors, right? Inflation. Well, oh, gee, the Democrats can't do anything about that. Immigration. Oh, we've always had an immigration problem. The war in Ukraine. Well, the Democrats are not going to take, or the U.S. is not going to take responsibility for that. And the still lingering COVID pandemic make for a dreadful political atmosphere for President Biden's party. What's interesting about that statement is this. It talks about the atmosphere. So it seems to imply that the Democrats are unfortunate. They have very poor fortune. All these bad things just happen to be going on. And the Democrats just happen to be in power. Therefore, those poor bastards, they're going to suffer. What about this? And again, there's also an implication that there's nothing that can be done about it. See, that's the other thing, that the system, where the system is so insidious in the propaganda that you get. It implies two things. Number one, that the Democrats are just unfortunate. There's nothing, and they haven't had a hand in any of this, and everything's going bad, and none of it's their fault, so they're going to suffer. It also implies, think about it, if these are just things that are in the atmosphere, there's nothing anybody can do about it. Right? It's just, if you happen to be it's like you're walking down the road and a bird poops on your head. You're in the wrong place at the wrong time. There's nothing you could have done. Who could have predicted that, or that particular time, a bird flying over 1,000 feet above you on just the right angle at just the right time at just the right speed, and you'd be doing just the right thing, and the bird would poop on you. Who could have predicted that? Right? So you're unfortunate. Your fortune has brought you serendipitously something that you couldn't have controlled. You poor sucker. It also makes one pity a person, right? You got pooped on by a bird. Ah, you poor bastard. However, so it's now, I think the reason the system has to give us that kind of propaganda is because those are systemic problems. Those things are caused by a rotten system, by a system that funnels everything to the wealthy, by a system that does nothing to address the needs of the citizenry, right? So therefore, inflation, it's just COVID or whatever. Oh, immigration. Oh, there's always going to be immigration. What if we touch on each one of those, right? Inflation, a big part of inflation, contrary to what you hear. Here's what you'll hear. Inflation is the issue is demand. So you have to raise interest rates to alter demand. Raising interest rates alters the people that are buying, right? And therefore, that'll bring inflation down. However, no matter how much somebody tells you, every circumstance could be different. This is not an issue of demand side inflation. People want to buy things, but there's supply chain problems and they can't get them, so there's a greater demand, right? They take cars. Why is there what people want to buy cars, don't they? They want to buy them. You don't need to raise interest rates to deter people from buying cars. Why? What's the problem with the cars? You can't. The people can't get their mitts, or excuse me, the car companies can't get the chips. The cars can't go out. People can't get. So the demand is there, but the supply can't provide the cars, which means they want used cars, which means there's a higher value. People are buying more used cars. The price of used cars goes up. So how is raising the interest rates going to affect you? It's not, because they're not. The problem is people, let me put it like this. People who believe in neoliberal politics always blame it on demand. Sometimes that is the instance, but this is not one of them. So therefore, you're going to use a tool that even if people raise the interest rates, that's a tool that will not work. In fact, it'll just make it worse. So we look at that and we say, well, that's pretty screwed up. So that we look at inflation and we say that's a matter of the chain. And that's why do we have supply chain problems? Because of globalism. Because you'd have this made in this country because it was cheaper. You'd have other parts made in another country because it was cheaper. Other parts made here because you could get cheap labor. Other parts made here because you could, and then you bring all those parts together. As opposed to, say, the 60s, when you make a car, you make all the parts right here in the same country and you do it. Globalism spread everything out to get the cheapest possible price you could get. And now let me ask you this: did globalism bring us better or cheaper cars? No, it didn't. They became more expensive, so they could make them cheap, right? And they could still keep the same price or raise it. The one thing that globalism did was it brought the billionaires more profit. They could make things cheaper, and they could sell them at the same price or higher. That profit. So what globalism did, or the only thing it did, two things: it increased profit, but it dissipated the good jobs, because now the people who are in America who are making stuff, their jobs go to the poorest country. So now the person who makes the car buys the stuff around in all of the countries that have the cheapest labor. They save money on labor, but now the people in America that were making good money don't make it. So inflation, the issue of inflation was now that we're dealing is a result of globalism, and a good portion of it is price gouging. A good portion of it is companies raising prices simply because they can. They want to make up that money that they lost during COVID, and they can get away with it. It's price gouging, right? That's inflation. Immigration, well, okay, there's no problem with it. Why do we have immigration? Well, let's go to Central and South America, the United States policies. We destabilized those countries, overthrew the government, put in dictators, you name it. And as a result, we destabilized the entire region, and now they're showing up at our borders. So immigration is a result of the system, systemic problems, U.S. problems, destabilized areas of the world, and the refugees show up on our border. So all of those things, the war in Ukraine, again, why the war in Ukraine? NATO continues building up to Russia's border. Russia says, will you stop building up to my border? NATO says, no, wham. Russia says, well, then I'm going to knock you off my border, which is the same thing China's going to do in Taiwan, is the same thing we'd do if Russia or China started building up bases in Mexico. Again, systemic problems. So the system can't say all these problems that we have are created by the system. The system has to pretend as though all those issues are just by happenstance, acts of God, as it were. Okay, so let's keep going. But what am I talking about on this particular discussion? And that is that what's conspicuous here is you look at that, excuses be damned, the Democratic Party doesn't seem to care. Well, look at the article. It says they're facing disaster. They're facing, what's it say? Let me bring it back down. Nightmare scenario, biblical disaster, wiped out from one end of the country to the other, right? So you ask the question, why wouldn't, in the past, a party would be trying to do something? They're doing nothing. I'll give you one reason. Again, political globalism, in that the people who own the Democratic Party, who fund the Democratic Party, are the same people who fund the Republican Party. So the people that are funding the Democratic Party don't care if they get wiped out in the midterms, because those people never get wiped out. They own both parties. So no matter what, they're going to get their money through. They're going to get their, whether you're in the big agricultural, whether you're in the petrochemical hydrocarbon business, whether you're in the banking business, whether you're in the weapons business, it doesn't matter who's in, you're going to get your money. So their backers are like, chill out, man. Don't worry about if you lose. I got you. I got you. And I'll just give you a job working at this think tank, working at this bank, working at this weapons manufacturer, you name it. We got you a job here. So what do you care? You're making 170 grand in Congress. You're better off if you lose. They'll give you a job making 1.7 million working for one of these, big scam organizations. So bottom line being, it's not like they need a job, and it's not like their owners who own both parties give a crap. They ain't losing nothing. We always lose. So again, let's get back to what this system has dissolved in, what this political system has, devolved into. The people. Think about this. When George Bush came in, George W. Bush, he brought in Paul Wolfowitz. He brought in Richard Pearl. He brought in Doug Feith, Kenny Adelman. He brought in all of these warmongering neocons. But where did they come from? Wolfowitz and Pearl both came from, they worked with a guy named Scoop Jackson. Henry Scoop Jackson. He was a Democrat. He was a Cold War Democrat. He was one of these Cold War Democrats that they hated the Russians worse than the Republicans. And these Wolfowitz and Pearl guys were very, very much Zionist. They came from a Trotskyite background, forever war, forever revolution, take your ideology and go around the world and force it on everybody else. They were Trotskyites. Isn't it ironic that they came from that Soviet Union, Russian, revolution kind of thing, but they were from the Trotskyite faction. So what we've got running things are a bunch of Trotskyites right now. That's the reality. That's the odd paradox that we have, that they hate the Russians so bad, right? But at any rate, so they were Democrats. They came into, George H.W. Bush, Cheney, these people are Republicans, fine. They could care less. They were in the Republican administration. Obama came in, a bunch of them jumped over in the Obama administration. Trump, as many of them could. So they came. And so what we have now, the neocons, we call them neoconservatives, they're fascists. They're fascists. Let's call them what they are. They're fascists. They don't care about Democrat or Republican or anything. They're forever revolution. They're ultra hawks. And they really are fascists. I mean, if you look at what they're doing with far as free speech, if you look at what they're doing online control, if you look at what they're doing with finances and all, they're ultra hawks and they are fascists, and that's all they care about. So let me get this to where we're going. If you look at the people who run this Democratic Party, the Jake Sullivans and all of these other people, they're fascists. So now that the fascists have control of the leadership of the United States, the fascists are about permanent war, permanent revolution, permanent control. So all they care about now, and this is this powerful, that you've given the fascists, the worst element in politics, because they aren't really politicians. You've given them the steering wheel of this huge Goliath empire. And the fascists, the only thing they know is Put your foot on the gas. Let's run everybody over in front of us. We'll dominate the world now. This is what we've been waiting for. We got full control of the empire. When Trump was there, they had part of control. He wanted to pump the brakes a little bit. Now they got Biden. Biden's not all here. So you've got these pure fascists. So what are they going to do? First of all, they hate Russia for any number of reasons. You have all of these, let's face it, you got a bunch of fascists who are tied to Eastern Europe, and they hate Russians. Poland and Ukraine and on and on. They despise Russians. Ukrainian nationalists, you name it. And so they despise Russia. So their lifelong dream to bring Russia down is before them. And so since they're not politicians and they don't care about politics, they're focused on their mission. And bad news, since they're not politicians, their mission has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with our lives. It has nothing to do with running the United States, running the country, none of that. They're now like, we finally got our lifelong hope of trying to bring Russia down, and they're all caught up in that, to a point where it's like Captain Ahab and the white whale. They've chased the white whale. The only problem is we're on board the ship, and now they've got it, but they got a tiger by the tail. They can't hold on and they can't let go. So now they're facing Russia, and they've got a number of problems. Number one, and I'll go through the problems that they have, but they're just bottom line, they're pure fascists. Look at what they're doing online. They're doing what fascists do. If you don't do what I tell you, I'm going to force you. I'm going to use force. That's all they know is force. Think about what happened with mandates. Those of us who oppose the mandates. I believe in, look, as far as I'm concerned, if you want to drink bleach, it's your body, drink it. Whatever medical thing you want, that's fine. If you want to go take the jab, fine. I think we should be as informed as possible. But if somebody wants to take the jab uninformed, I'm not against that. That's your life. Take what you want. But the idea that you can mandate that people should have to take it who don't want to, that's a big problem. And what did the fascists do when people said no? If you want, there's this old saying about narcissists. If you want to see if somebody's a narcissist, there's a simple test. Tell them no. Narcissists can't handle no. And a fascist can't handle no. They freak out. So when people said, nah, I'm not going to go along with that mandate, what did they do? They did the same thing that they're doing to Russia now. They did the same thing that they did in Venezuela, that they did to Cuba, that they did to Iran, that they did to, what is that? Sanctions. You're going to have your economic sanctions right on Americans. If you don't go with the mandates, you can't work. We'll lose your job. You'll get we'll freeze your bank account. We'll economic sanctions, because that's all fascists know. They use force, coercion, and force, nothing else. That's what the mandates were about. We tell you what to do, but I don't want to do it. Then we use coercion and force. So when these fascists got in the Democratic Party, they were back and forth, Republican to Democrat. They got to the Democratic Party, and they've got the leadership of the party is Biden, who doesn't even know what day it is, and Kamala Harris, who doesn't even know what day it is for different reasons, but neither of them know what day it is. Kamala Harris is unconscious ignorance. She doesn't know. She doesn't know what she doesn't know, and she doesn't know that she doesn't know. It's pathetic. And Biden, same thing, again, different reasons. So where are we now? We're dealing with these fascists, and they're focusing on the task at hand. They got to bring Russia down. Now, the problem with them, let me tell you, I remember, I read a lot. And one of the books I read, which one was it? It was called The Something Axis, but it was about the Nazis and all that kind of stuff, right? And one of the discussions, and it was about people who supported the Nazis. And one of them was, what was the guy's name? The guy who flew the Spirit of Lindbergh, Spirit of St. Louis. And the other one was Henry Ford, who were very, very pro-Nazi, both of them. One of the things that I never forgot was there was a discussion about Charles Lindbergh. And what they said was Lindbergh remarked when he went to Germany and, Nazi Germany in the 30s, and he saw all the things they were doing and everything looked like it was running well. And, they had great, military stuff. And so he looked at all, and he came back and he said he was amazed. The trains ran on time. Everything ran like clockwork. Everything was so orderly. The Nazis were so good at so many things. But he said the thing that he remarked is he couldn't believe how stupid they were. Of all of the things they were able to do, he was shocked when it came to it. And in the bottom line, they were absolutely stupid. Fascism isn't really stupid, but it manifests itself as stupid because of their ideologues. And ideologues, and you'll probably get this in a minute, ideologues are philosophically opposed to critical thinking. They have a philosophical opposition because ideologues are psychopaths, ideologues are sociopaths, narcissistic, and they think everybody should do what they tell them to do and they don't care. Critical thinking means somebody might think their way out of it. When an ideologue says you have to do this for this reason, if somebody uses their critical thinking powers, the person may say, well, I got another, maybe I shouldn't, and challenge them. Fascists do not like to be challenged. So they oppose critical thinking. And so that manifested comes across as being stupid because anybody opposed to critical thinking, it appears as though they don't have, they're anti-intellectual. So they are, it's not that they're not smart, it's that they're opposed to being smart because they already got the answers and you go by the answers that they have. So now when we look at the Biden administration, but then look at Bojo, look at the EU leaders, von der Leyen, Truss, all these kinds of people, right? One of the things they do, if you look at it, is, I mean, Liz Truss, she went to Russia and didn't even know the regions of Russia next to Ukraine. She knew nothing. She made an idiot out of herself. Why is that? The fascists, the people that they bring up the ladder, right? The people that they promote are promoted for ideological reasons, not for intellectual reasons. So if you're going to move up, if you're going to put a Liz Truss or somebody in a position that you put Liz Truss in, you don't put them in that position because they're intelligent, because they've been involved in diplomacy for years, because they plied their trade and learned their trade, and now they know what to do, and you can look at them and say, this person is quality. No, you put them in that position because they're a true believer in an ideologue. And that's, again, fascism. So now you have important positions and you have nothing but pure ideologue. Golden Silence says the EU is full of fools. Well, what they're doing manifests itself as foolishness because they're ideologues. And it's not important that you know anything. It's important that you believe the right things. It's like a odd cultish religion. You believe things as a matter of faith. We know that this is true. Don't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. We all believe that it's true. It's common knowledge amongst all of us. We all believe the earth is flat. Whatever it is, we all believe that. And we all accept common knowledge. These people believe in a consensus reality. As long as everybody believes the same thing, then it's true. And we got it made. And if you listen to them, they'll tell you that don't work well on the battlefield. That don't make weight in a fight. You can believe all you want to. You get in a fight, you can get your butt kicked, right? And that's the issue that they have. While they were building a consensus, the Russians were building hypersonic missiles and tanks and building up a quality military. So, but they built a great consensus, but the consensus don't work well on the battlefield. Now, what do they do? Think about this. As the Russians plod away, the Russians have a military plan. They're executing their military plan. It's been 2 months. What happens if by the third month, which I suspect they will have pretty much won this war? What you'll say is, think about it. You'll look at it because people are like, oh, they're having a rough time. I suspect by the third month, they're going to pretty much have mostly won it. And that way, you'll be looking at, they defeated a country bigger than Great Britain, like bigger than Iraq in 90 days. The U.S. had bombed 72 days of Iraq before they even started going in. These people went in the first day, ground war, go to the city. And so let's see where it is in 90 days, right? They are doing real war stuff. And what do we have on the other side? We've got a bunch of people doing narratives. They're like doing public relations stunts. They're bringing Zelensky around and they're putting a bunch of cameras in and they're making him look cool. Staring off, sitting on steps with things beside him, staring off into the blue, getting these great pictures, green screen, stuff like that. That ain't war. But that's where the fascists live. In the fascist world, it's all about the narrative. It's all about convincing people of things. all about bamboozling people. And so that's why they're always wrong about everything, because they don't care if they're right. They come up with a narrative and they go with it. So now we're in a place where they politically are going to run into the equivalent of a battlefield. Here's what I mean. They're literally saying to people, you should suffer for our neocon cause. We're going to run the world, and all you got to do is lie to people and get them to believe whatever you're telling them, and they'll be willing to suffer. Well, what they haven't figured out is that people in the United States really they're starting to feel it, but they're not feeling it. The people in Europe really are starting to feel it, and they ain't seen nothing yet. Man, the people in Europe are good. We're going to get it. Don't get me wrong. We're going to get it. Just as it is now. If China doesn't wake up one day and decide to kick Taiwan's ass, and I think they will. But just as we are now, the people in Europe, their ass is grass, and inflation and the energy prices is going to be the lawnmower. And let me tell you, those parties going to fall. The Schultzes, not only will they fall, the people, they will be remembered throughout history as being the most incompetent, humiliation, embarrassment to their own country. Because what I suspect is going to happen is the people that will replace them initially will probably be more to the right. And a lot of people, I've noticed that a lot of people are sick of the woke stuff because that's all a fraud, right? So where they are is they're playing the narrative game, but they have no actual tools and ability. To do foreign policy, you have to be able to do diplomacy. The neocons don't know anything about diplomacy. They don't care about diplomacy. They believe in raw power and force, which works if you got the dominant power and force. They don't have that anymore. Right now, think about this. Let's talk about Ukraine for just a minute. Let's talk about it for just a minute and the options. Okay. Some idiots in Britain were talking about we've got to get a coalition of the willing and send soldiers into Ukraine to confront the Russians, right? That's what they said. We're going to create a corridor in the Black Sea where people can come and go to make sure that the Russians don't take Odessa. Now, let me say this. In the Black Sea, do you know how quickly your ships will sink? Do you know the amount of dominant firepower that the Russians have in the Black Sea? You can't. The nickname of the Black Sea was Putin's Lake. You go to the Black Sea and you're going to confront the Russians and say you can't take Odessa. You've got a narrative that says that. You put 6 ships in there. Let's start here. Even without regular missiles, 6 hypersonic missiles, you have no defense for a hypersonic missile. What are you going to do? We're going to send 6 frigates to confront the Russians in the Black Sea. If the Russians say, if you do it, we'll sink you. What are you going to do? If you do it, they say, now, if you cross this area, you're sunk. That we're going to consider you belligerents, and if you're going towards the ports in Odessa, we're going to tell you right now, we're going to sink every one of your ships. Oh yeah, we'll show you. You go towards you. We already know you have no defense for hypersonic missiles. So you got 6 frigates heading into the ports of Odessa, and they fire 6 missiles going 10,000 miles an hour. When they hit those ships at that speed, even if they didn't have explosives on them, the kinetic energy would rip those ships to pieces. So we're going to show them, we'll send 6. Uh-oh, where's our 6 ships? Oh no, they've been turned to rubble. So start there. You are on the Russian border, one of the most powerful militaries in the world in its own right, but on its border, it is the most powerful military on this border. So we're going to, when people say they're going to confront the Russians on their border and they're going to lose, what are you going to do? We're going to send some troops into Ukraine. Really? You're going to send troops into Ukraine. You may be bamboozling your people into thinking the Russians are losing, but the Ukrainians know better. What are you going to send a bunch of troops into Ukraine on the Russian border? The missile strikes will hit them so fast, You won't have any troops. If the Russians say, if you cross in, we're going to blow them to smithereens, what are you going to do? Well, cross the border into Poland, boom, they're vaporized. So let's face it, that's not an option. It would be suicide to confront the Russians on the Russian border. A military with that level of power, that level of, and on their border, hypersonic missiles everywhere, the full Air Force, all of their power, air power of the Russian military concentrated right on their border. And you're going to send troops into that meat grinder, they'll be dead in 15 minutes. If send 5,000 of them, that's 5,000 deaths in 50. Those that can try to straggle back across the border will be lucky. They got no chance. Then what are you going to do? Go to war with Russia on Russia's border? I don't know if you've been paying attention to Scott Ritter, but he's made it clear. You ain't winning that one. Not winning that one. You're going to get turned to rubble. So all of this talk of the neocons, well, we've got options. You don't have options. You don't have options. So as we go on and look at the neocons, we can say that they are unconcerned with politics. So we have people running the U.S. empire, because when I say the U.S. empire, I mean the U.S., the U.K., Canada, the EU. Now add Japan and add Korea. That's the U.S. empire. These countries or other countries are kind of Israel's part of the U.S. empire, as we're seeing some of these Middle Eastern countries, not so much. Yes, but no, but they got a little bit of autonomy and they're starting to back away. But these countries, the U.S., the EU, etc., are part of the U.S. empire. And so when what we've seen and what the Europeans are learning is when the neocons got full control in Washington, D.C., there was nothing nothing the EU or the UK or Canada or Canada or Australia can do, because they don't have autonomy. They don't have sovereignty. They are just colonies of the U.S. So now when the U.S. falls, they go down with it. And the U.S. has a bunch of what do you call it? Fascists in charge. They got them the same thing, idiot fascists, and they're running around, with a lot of bluster. So as we see it, we can say that the U.S. empire politically has already fallen, has already collapsed. It is in the hands of the neocon fascists. There aren't true political entities running the U.S. empire, which means now that you don't have any political entities running it, that means that economically it's going to collapse, because there's nobody running the U.S. empire who cares about the economics, who cares about the politics, who cares about the people. They're on a mission, and their mission is world hegemony. Their mission is Zionism. Their mission is those kinds of neocon things. So that's it. Now, is that it in a way? Let me add this. Professor Anthony Montero. I need to get him on. I need to get him. I love him. He's pretty awesome. However, is it completely over? No, for this reason, because they can still lose. One of the things that I think we're going to see in faster in Europe than here, because the Europeans because they're going to get hit so hard economically by these sanctions, that you're going to see these governments in Europe fall. You're going to fall, and they'll be replaced by people. There's going to be a move for sovereignty. So one of the things that I've been asked about, people have been discussing, is how does the U.S. empire fall, and will they lose to Russia, China, whatever? I think that empires tend to collapse from the inside out. The Chinese, if the U.S. does something stupid, the Chinese might go ahead and smash Taiwan and take it. They don't want to, but they may do it if the U.S. pushes them too far. But if that doesn't happen, I think the Chinese will probably wait, because what they're seeing, SJR says lying is acceptable, corruption is overlooked. I would even go wrong. The lying is not acceptable. Lying is the way they do things. Corruption is not overlooked. These are the way they do things. This is their modus operandi, method of operation, is lying and corruption. That's who the neocons are. That's fascism. That's what they do. But Kinky says, can't wait for the French election next Sunday. Yes. So That's what part of what we're seeing. It wouldn't shock me. I would not be surprised if Le Pen wins. I won't be surprised if Le Pen wins. But even if Le Pen doesn't win, it's going to scare the bejesus out of the rest of the colonies out there in Europe. They're going to realize they're in deep trouble. If Le Pen wins, I don't see how the German uh, government makes it through the end of 2022, because as month after month comes and prices go up, 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 these people will be in the street. They're going to go from, yay, we got Putin, I hate Putin, to, hey, I'm hungry. And why is it $10 for a loaf of bread? It's going to get to the point that they can't eat. And one of the things I think you're going to see is the deindustrialization of Europe. You're going to see these industries, because if the raw materials are that high, if the energy is that high, it's going to cost so much to make their products that they won't be able to remain competitive economically. They'll have to sell the products for less than it costs to make them, and so that's going to just destroy Germany and Italy. These are countries that have major industry. France has a good too, but Germany and all the stuff they make in Italy and Germany, God forbid, done. So you'll see the energy prices go through the roof, food prices go through the roof, and what happens? Their industry will start to collapse, and those friggin' people are going to be pissed so bad. And the governments will fall, they'll be replaced, and I think we'll see, initially what you'll see is right wing. You'll see Viktor Orban type right wingers. You'll see Marine Le Pen types. You'll see people who don't want to be involved in NATO, don't want to be involved with war, less interventionist minded, the liberal interventionists, and they're going to want some level of sovereignty from the U.S. empire. And the U.S. empire is going to be angry. Right now, I guarantee you this, CIA, everybody is doing everything. It's funny. That's bull crap about Russia interfered with the election. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard about, with Facebook pages. You got to be really stupid to believe that. But for a fact that the EU and the US empire and the CIA and everyone are doing everything they can to take Le Pen out right now. Everything. Talk about that. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think the EU just fined Le Pen like 677,000 pounds or some ungodly amount. I mean, they just gave themselves away. They're like, okay, find Le Pen, do something. They're attacking her. The EU is giving herself away. And believe it or not, it might benefit her, because she's casting herself as an outsider. She's casting herself as the EU doesn't care about you. We've lost our sovereignty to them. They hate us. They hate the working people. And now the EU comes and smacks her. Man, they might have helped her win. If she wins, I'm going to say she should thank the EU and say thanks a lot for really driving an exclamation mark at the end of the sentence when I say I'm an outsider. But we are definitely going to see, we're going to see some very serious changes. And so if I say that, how does the empire crash? From the inside out, in that their coalition, because look, they're confronting Russia, as it were, right? That's what these Jake Sullivans and these people are. They want to get China. Ostensibly, they're saying we got to take Russia out first so we can get to China. But that ain't how neocons really think. That would mean that they were thinking this thing through. They ain't thinking this thing through. Russia's here and we can confront them, and we hate Russia. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. We're going to take Russia out. They're not really thinking of it from the perspective of China. You know why? Because they're still raising hell with China. They're still sending more weapons to Taiwan, barking and woofing at China. So the truth is, this is not, people think that the neocons are smart enough to have a plan. And the plan is, first we weaken Russia, then we go to China. It appears that that's the plan, but neocons aren't even smart enough to play chess like that. They're knuckle dragging apes. And these knuckle dragging, all they see is, ugh, Russia. We know like Russia. They're apes. Og no like Russia. Russia right here. Og hit Russia. Bump. That's the way they are. Knuckle dragging apes. So Russia's in front of them. They hate Russia. They're punching Russia. But China's over there. Yeah, I hate China too. And yeah, I hate them too. Ooh, Russia. Punch, punch, punch. And to say it's, look, people are like, it's backfiring on them and the prices are going up. It ain't backfiring on them. It's backfiring on us. They don't give a damn about us. So it ain't backfiring on them. They're still eating well. They're still drinking the finest wine. They're still flying around on Air Force One, Two, Three, Four, and Five. Dinners served all the time. Life is good for them and their billionaires, friends. Now for us, times are starting to get a little hard. They don't give a shit. They hate our guts. We are nothing but an inconvenience to them, a bunch of hungry mouths to feed. Would you shut up and do what you're told? That's their position. And if you're not, they hate your guts. They're fascist. That's kind of how fascists think. And fascists think. So you've got Europe that they've been so stupid that they couldn't force, excuse me, I use the word stupid, you know what I mean? But such ideologues that, and they're not smart enough to realize that they're going to be facing political hell in Europe, and the European idiot fascist vassals are doing what they're told, and they're going to go. So I think I'll put it like this. The US empire collapses this way, and it doesn't have to be this way, but one way. The European countries suffer. They start to fall one by one. They go to people who don't want to, who hate NATO, who hate the US. The people are in the street saying, we ain't putting up with this. And the people that start winning start saying, I can't do this, because they'll cut my head off in this country. Maybe figuratively, maybe literally. People are going to be pissed. There's going to be violence. UK, same as now. You know, this is a short term. Oh, they've got all the propaganda, and they got all the people running around so angry at Russia right now. Right now, man, when they can't buy food, you know what the old saying is in Europe. You've heard it once, you've heard it 1,000 times. When the people are out of bread, it's off with the leader's head. And that's where the way it's going to be. So the only possibility that would change that a bit, if the US continues to push China to a point where China smashes Taiwan, where China says, "That's it, we're taking Taiwan." And think of this: at that point, what are the idiots going to do? Oh, we have sanctioned Russia everywhere. We've sanctioned all of the commodities, and we don't know what we're going to do. But yeah, they're going to go down. Ha ha ha. Okay, China is the world's economy. China is the world's industrial engine. Okay, now here's what we're going to do. Wait a minute. Where's Nike? Adidas, where's their stuff made? On and on and on. The Intel, I mean, you name it. All of these countries, all of these computers, servers, all the stuff that we buy. Where the hell is it made? If you got a car, you need car parts. Where's it made? You got a lawnmower, you need lawnmower parts. Where's it made? Where's everything made? So what are you going to do? We'll fix you, China. We're not buying anything from China. Really? Well, what happens when my lawnmower breaks and I need a part? We ain't going to be getting it. Just throw it away. Well, okay, I need a new lawnmower then. We can't get that either. Why? Because that came from China too. Oh, my bike's China. Okay. Well, I need a new China. Everything China. So what are you going to do? Let me put it to you like this. It's where Europe is right now. They're supposedly trying to take out Russia, but they can't live without Russian gas. So in reality, if Russia wanted to, I've said this plenty of times, they could shut the spigot off all they can. Any day they wanted to, they could wipe out Europe. Any day they wanted to, would never fire a shot. And I think if Europe pushes them too far, they will. If Europe pushes, I'll put it like this. If NATO, let's say these idiots get to the point and they say, we're sending in troops, right? Oh, really? Yeah. First of all, as I said, they'll be dead. They'll be dead as soon as they cross the border. But let's not even go that far, right? What if Russia says, tell you what, you're going to send some ships in the Black Sea? We could blow them up. You're going to send some troops? We could blow them up. But here's what we're going to do. As soon as they embark on their journey, we're cutting off everything from Europe. Everything. They will get no agricultural products. They will get no fertilizer. They will get no gas. And neither will you, the United States. You will get no oil, no fuel, no fertilizer. As soon as you send one soldier, one ship in our direction, we're cutting off all of that stuff for 30 days. Starting for 30 days. We'll turn it back on in 30 days. We'll start by shutting it off for 30 days. If you keep coming, then they're shut for good. Now, if you send somebody in our direction, we're going to shut them off for 30 days. If you come to your sense and send them back, then you still got to wait that 30 days, but we'll shut them back on. See how it feels 30 days from now. See how you feel sitting 30 days with no gas, no fuel, no fertilizer, no oil, watching the price of gas go to $15 a gallon in the United States and $25 a gallon in Europe. So in reality, if the US ever pushes Russia hard enough, and Russia says, I'm playing my ace, we're shutting you off for 30 days. Don't care what you do. There's nothing you can do now. See how that feels, and then think about what the error of your ways. So they got trump cards they can play. And if you push them too far, I believe they play them. That's what I do. If you said, well, we've decided we're sending troops in, really? Oh, you are you? Even right now, gas is still flowing through Ukraine, going to the EU. Flowing right through Ukraine. If I'm Russian, if you send any troops, you threaten us, you get no gas. You get nothing. All the things you need, none of it. No palladium, no titanium to build aircraft, nothing. We're shutting it all down. And in fact, we're not selling any of that stuff for 30 days. Do you know what the market's going to look like? We're taking Russian, it only goes to the east. None of your countries can buy oil, gas, anything for us for 30 days. Do you know what's going to happen to the market? Do you know what the prices are going to do? They're going to blow your economy to smithereens. So you're playing with people who've got dynamite in a match held to your economy. This is your economy, and this is a match. You really want me to click that? That's what Russia can do. So in reality, everybody's saying the people want to push Russia, but so far. But if they push them, but so far, man, they got a nuclear card. They don't have to fire a nuke. They can first fire the economic nuke. They haven't done it, but they can. Same with China. What happens if China says, here's what we're going to do? You've pushed us too far on Taiwan. Oh, no, we're not going to go fight Taiwan. We're not going to blow Taiwan up. All those ships that are headed to the U.S. with all that stuff, we're turning them back around. Until you back the hell off of Taiwan, we ain't selling you nothing. We're not buying nothing. China could nuke our economy. What if they called us on all of our, they got $1 trillion and trillions of dollars of debt? Okay, we decided we're calling you on all of that. They got economic news. So everybody thinks China will just attack us or Russia will just attack us with military. That'll be military. Well, let me tell you something. This is an economic war on China. Don't forget the other side's got weapons. They got howitzers too. You're firing howitzers. They got howitzers too. First of all, they got a gun pointed right at the temple of Germany and the EU, and that is gas. And that is all this food stuff that they need. Oh, by the way, you guys buy a lot of wheat from us, don't you? Yeah, you get none. Ooh, love those delicious French baguettes, don't they? Let's see how they taste with no wheat. It's up to you. So the truth is, if these idiot fascists push Russia too far, Russia doesn't have to use actual nukes. They can use an economic nuke. What if Russia says, look, we're not going to accept Finland. If you allow Finland to go into NATO, we got one or two choices. We either go to war, which they will, or we'll use our economic war. We'll cut if they're in Finland, we cut off the gas tomorrow. You make that vote. The day the second that you say yes, that Finland's in, we'll cut the gas off until Finland's back out. If you think that your life will be better, fine, it's off. So Russia has some economic nukes they can play, and these fascists are pretending like they don't. And so what are they doing? They're risking everything. And what happens? They say, we'll fix it. Go ahead and do it. And Russia does that. And you wake up tomorrow and you drive to, it's like, oh man, I got to get some gas. And you work, holy crap, it's $13 a gallon. What am I going to do? It's over. It's over for businesses. How do you deliver things at $13 a gallon? What does it cost if everything goes by truck and it's $15 a gallon? So now your food stuff triples in price. Triples. It's over for our economy. Nuke gone up for the economy. So the truth is that what has happened to end this up is just throwing a lot of stuff out there at you. But the truth is that these idiots, all the things that I brought up today, any reasonable person could figure out if you know anything about geopolitics and finances and who needs who for what. So that doesn't mean that the neocons don't know these things. It means that they don't give a damn about this. Is not their interest. And so as the Republicans, as the Democrats are probably going to get nuked in the midterms, They got power. The neocons aren't Democrats anyway. What do they care if the Democrats get nuked? The neocons aren't Democrats. They're not Republicans. They're fascists. And they'll, while they have power, they don't stop to think that they'll ever lose power. So they're not thinking about that. They're just using the power and force that they have to, and you know, with the Republicans getting power, they'll attack them, they'll try to destroy them. But here's the bottom line is this. A lot of the Republicans are neocons and fascists too. So that ain't going to change much. At any rate, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming on and giving me an opportunity to chat with you. We didn't get any super chats tonight, but that's okay. Thank you. I have a patreon.com page. So go to patreon.com. It would be wonderful if people could go donate there and help me get my website up. I'm going to get a donor box. I'm looking at a couple of other ways to make money. So I want to get a donor box account. But at any rate, I want to thank everybody, those who could and have helped. I appreciate it. Those who can't, and if you don't have it, then just enjoy the show and enjoy, you know, the discussion. And you're just as important to me. Those who can help are just as important to me as those who can't. So I appreciate it. That's what I'm here for. And I'll figure a way to get that website up and get everything going at some point. Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's see what a couple people say before I go. The Russians don't play. They're not dealing with rational actors over here. Mutually destroyed or assured destruction on the way. You know what? I should do a whole show on this, but I'll make it short when it comes to nukes. I think one of the things that we've seen Biden say a lot, and you saw Stoltenberg say it, is we don't want World War III. We don't want World War III. No, we don't want World War III. Why do they keep saying that? They're talking to the donors. Because let's face it, if we're honest about it, the people who own and run the Democratic Party will like a dog has a chain. You got a chain, but you can go but so far. Why? Because they like going to beaches. They like hanging out at the billionaire places and doing all the things. They don't want to live on some black crispy planet where they're all dead and we're dead too. So the people in charge are the neocons. There's no telling what they'll do, but the people who are in charge. Thanks a lot. I want to thank Lane Adele. Hates the clock for super chat. I certainly appreciate that. But I think the people that are behind them are like, nah, we don't want that. We don't want that. We want to be alive. So the people who really call the shots do not want a nuclear war. That's why they're not, one of the reasons they ain't going to war with Russia. Because what they want to do is not go to war with Russia. They want to drag Russia into Ukraine and weaken Russia as they do a proxy war and Russia fights in Ukraine. They don't want to go toe-to-toe with Russia, but partly because they know what I know. They know that, first of all, they know if they go to a kinetic war with Russia on Russia's border, they're going to get the hell knocked out of them, and it ain't going to be long doing it. They're not ready to take the kind of casualties that they take in a hurry to go war toe-to-toe with Russia, because Russia really will fight, and they don't want to fight. They don't want to deal with that. They know they'll lose all their power at home if they get in that fight. They don't want that, and they know the chances of their nuclear. And let me say this on nuclear. I think the Russia and the China of the world have said basically this: if you attack us, if we attack, they ain't going to nuke us. But if we attack them with nuclear weapons, they'll end it all and it's done for all of us. But I think they've decided that's on the U.S., that the U.S. has been such an arbitrary and capricious fascist beast that I think Russia and China have said either one of two things are going to happen. Either we're going to knock you off your perch, or if we all go together. If you attack us with nukes, we'll respond with nukes. We ain't going to go to nukes. But life, we'd rather all be dead than live life with you fascist bastards in charge. I think that's where Russia and China are. We're not going to live like, we're going to fight you. If you use nuclear weapons, we'll respond with nuclear weapons. So the U.S. would have to be the initiator of the nuclear weapons. And knowing what the response is, their handlers are going to say, look, I got $1 million condos in New York and Miami and DC and LA. $110 million condos all over the place. I got all this. I got women. I got this. I got boys, whatever they all have that they're doing. They enjoyed that lifestyle. They don't want it to get it turned black and crispy. So I would argue the people in power, in charge, will let them go up to that level. And they don't really want to go to war with China because the Defense Department knows right now if they go to war with another superpower on its border, they're going to lose. China's 7,000 miles away. They go to China and they try to go to war. China's sitting there on their border. They're going to knock the hell out of them with surface-to-surface missiles. Knock the hell out of them. And they're going to keep producing them. They're going to keep producing them by the thousands. And the U.S., I mean, let's face it, carriers, things like that, they're sitting ducks out there for these missiles. Russia has hypersonic missiles. You know what? Think about this. Those hypersonic missiles have a range of about 2,000 kilometers. And we have nothing. So let me give you an example. There's no way to stop them. The United States has what, 12, 13, 14 super carriers? That means 12, 13, 14 hypersonic missiles. If you got a dozen super carriers, they get knocked out with a dozen missiles. One missile coming in at 10,000 miles an hour with a payload is going to hit this. The kinetic energy alone will rip it apart. But add that, and that super carrier is toast. So you want to go. So war ain't what it used to be. You're not going to send ships over to Russia with 50,000 troops to fight Russia. They got subs with hypersonic missiles. Those troops will never get there alive. None of them. There's no way you can get a ship full of troops from here to Russia if the war starts, because Russia has subs with hypersonic missiles and they'll sink everyone, the hell of them, everything you send. So this is a different world we're in. They got hypersonic missiles, we don't, and no way to stop them. That means every ship will be torn to shreds before it gets damn near halfway out the ocean if you actually go to war with Russia. And what are you going to do? They got more nukes than we do. It is suicide, and the billionaires don't want to do that. So they're going to they're not going to do that. Now, I don't think it gets to that point. And if it does, here's the bottom line too. Let's face it. When it comes to existential reality, you can drop dead of a heart attack. I mean, worrying about where we're going to die at any age, none of us know. Any of us right now could drop dead of a heart attack before this video's over. We could go driving to work tomorrow and somebody could cross the center line and smack us. Last July, I don't know if you know what happened with my car accident. I was a mile from my house. I drove through a red light. A guy came through there at 70 miles an hour, hit my car so hard, my car smacked his car twice in a circle and went flying. I had a big old Lexus, big, monstrous Lexus, went flying sideways in the air across 2 lanes of traffic. How I got out of that alive, I don't know. So the idea that I'm going to worry about when I'm going to die, whether it's a heart attack, nuclear weapon, or anything else, there's no point in us doing that. You know, when we're all gone, we're all gone, we're all here, we're all here. We're all going to be gone sooner or later. So that's not an issue. But I do believe that the super billionaires kind of enjoy their decadent lifestyle. We wouldn't even want to know the things these people are doing, to tell you the truth. But the reality is, they're yanking their chain. Don't you dare. In fact, I think the billionaires are yanking their chain saying, don't go to war with Russia. That's too far. A kinetic war with Russia. And I know the Pentagon saying, we can't go. Look, if you think about it, it's on Russia's border. They got unlimited troops, unlimited air force. Their air force is taking off in Russian airspace. Russia has an integrated air defense, probably the best in the world. No probablys about it. They got S-400, S-500, which is the best air defense in the world. And they are integrated in so many ways. So their airplanes are taking off inside an integrated air defense that is the best in the world. They can fire standoff missiles from that air. They can fire them from the ground everywhere. They can rain down missiles on you and tear your ass limb from limb. You're on their border. Do you really want to do that? It's suicide for any right now, anywhere or anybody in the world, any military in the world, boom. It would take, what, a year, according to Scott Ritter, it would take us a year to build up enough forces. And you think they'd sit around and wait for us to do that? Ain't happening. So that's the truth is, for all those who say the U.S. wants to, and the EU is trying to build up so they can go send in troops, it wouldn't be wise. I think their militaries would say, you know, it's suicide if we send these troops in. The Russians will kill them in 15 minutes. If we send ships into the Black Sea. I mean, that's, to me, the Brits have been talking about that. Some of the Brits have been talking about we should go and build create an area around Odessa and tell the Russians that you can't come in this area and you can't take Odessa. The truth is, that ain't an option. The Russian says, yeah, you come in the Black Sea and try that, everything's sunk. It is. There's nothing we can do to stop them. They've got this giant humongous base in Sevastopol in Crimea. Crimea is one of the most heavily defended places on the face of this earth. And you're going to come near there with ships? Anti-ship missiles will be raining down on you like raindrops. So, no, that's the truth. I don't think that the US or the UK or the NATO's a pipe paper tiger. It doesn't have the military that you think it does. It doesn't have the military. What's England got? 20, 30,000, 40,000 troops that they can put, period? They got it. They don't have it. They don't have a real military. So forget it. It's not a military option at this point. If they get that stupid, then it would just be suicide for their troops. They threw their troops in a meat grinder in 15 minutes. They'd all be blown to smithereens. It wouldn't be wise unless the Russians backed off them. And I don't think they do it. If you're going to attack them, I think they're going to treat you like an attacker on their border. Bottom line, never attack a superpower on its border where it has all of its resources. Focus right there. That's suicide, man. That is suicide for anybody. To come to the U.S. border, well, the U.S. border wouldn't be as bad because our military is spread all over the world. Think about this. What do we got? 1 million people under arms or something? But we got the 850 bases. They're all over the world. Russia has 1 million people in arms, and they're all right there on the border, most of them. It's a focus, a concentration of power, an incredible concentration of military power in one area. Now, they have huge borders all over the place, but still, it's bad news. So they got to spread them out. But on that border, that eastern border with Europe, is an incredible amount of focused firepower. You don't want to go you don't want to go into the teeth of the Russian military's focused firepower. It ain't going to be a happy day for you. And the military already know that. You don't want to go in the Black Sea, which is also military known as Putin's Lake, with Crimea in there and just a missile battery, ship missile batteries lined up everywhere. You're toast from the second you come in the Black Sea. You're sitting there in their sights. They can sink you anytime they want to. Not a wise. So as much as you hear this stuff about the US or the UK wanting to, and don't get me wrong, the neocons would want to, they ain't that suicidal. And the military will be like, if we do that, it's over. What are we going to do? Tactical nukes. They're going to do tactical nukes right back. And then it's all over. So you might as well just swat here. Why don't you do this? I'll give you a poison pill and we can all take suicide pills now if we want to die. So that's what I think about that. But politically, I was talking about politically, that the idiots who run this place aren't politicians. They're fascist ideologues, the Newlands, the Jake Sullivans, all of these people that Biden surround himself with fascist ideologues. So they don't give a crap about politics. At any rate, thanks. I guess that's it. Thank God for surviving the collusion. Collusion, I like that. Hey, that's kind of a good play on words. We're all trying to survive the collusion. How about this? I was shocked when I actually listened to the lyrics of Rule Britannia. Oh, I have no. Interesting. How about rule number 1? Don't fight a superpower on its border. That is correct, Kinky. That is correct. The NATO catapults might stand a chance against the Russian hypersonic weapons. Yeah, there you go. All right. Thanks a lot, you all. I certainly appreciate it. I appreciate the super chats. I appreciate everybody helping out. I appreciate those who've gone to patreon.com. Do me a favor. At Garland Nixon on Twitter, Garland.Nixon on Instagram, Garland Nixon on Facebook, email garlandin@gmail.com. People are asking about Gonzalo Lira. We're hearing different things. We don't know the truth. We really don't know the truth. Let's hope for the best, and we will find out what we find out. He's in Ukraine. It's a very dangerous place. We'll hope for the best, and we'll see what happens on Gonzalo. Prayers out for Gonzalo Lira and his family, and of course the Azov's going to make claims on Telegram or whatever, but still we don't know anything. I would imagine they would. We'll hope for the best. All right, thanks a lot, and make sure you subscribe if you're watching this on Facebook, or if you're watching this on Twitter. Do me a favor, go to my YouTube page and subscribe. I need more subscribers. Click the little bell so you'll hopefully get notified, and share this on all of your social media platforms. Peace. I'm out.